started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
Oh, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm going to have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the final hockey podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast, where we sit at 100 and the Thomas Holmstrom, former Detroit Red Wing, of subscribers as well. And you can subscribe to the audio wherever you get your audio. And now I did say the word final. Yes, I did. You heard that right. Tonight is an end of an era, because after 2.5 years of going with the name The Hockey Podcast, starting next week, we will have a new name. So we're not going anywhere. We will probably be generally the same jerks that we always will be. Sean will be Sean. Chris will be Chris. Chris will then trigger Devin. And then Devin will trigger Chris back. Tyler will part his hair. I will do my witty repertoire and not say repertoire properly. But as of tonight, this week is the last week that we will be going under the name The Hockey Podcast. Next Monday, we will have a new name and some new other ideas that will be coming out. So I don't want to say that this is this sort of a rebranding. Maybe it's a reimagining. It's a recalibration.
We're evolving.
We're improving.
It's a retool.
It's a retool. Is this one of those things when management's like, this is not a rebuild, folks. This is a retool.
It's a mid-season reset.
It's a mid-season, yes.
Yeah, we can use all the RE words to describe this.
Yeah, but it's my fault. I came up with the name The Hockey Podcast. And I know that seemed I thought it was kind of a catchy, fun name. And then people thought some people thought it was kind of a dumber name. And I didn't quite understand what it was about. I thought it was quite simple in the title, but it was but it's time for a change. And I think it will be a good thing. I think from what the feedback we've gotten has been mostly positive where we're going. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's exciting it is the end of an era. I did want to say that watching the intro is always fun, because seeing the different beards of Devin and I through the last two and a half years has been quite the adventure, don't you think, Dev?
It definitely has. Mine has grown significantly, and yours is more tame. It's great.
Yeah. There is the complete middle of the pandemic beards, where they were both like absolutely like big and bushy and glorious. Yeah. But now we've both found a good groove here with the beards.
Yeah, and you have Chris isn't too far behind with his mangy mustache.
I'm coming for you.
Yeah, his mustache has grown his ego massively, that he can barely fit through his front door.
I just enjoy giving you shit, Dev. That's all.
You know, it's funny, because if we're going back at the memory lane a little bit here, Sean was the one at the very beginning when I first came to the podcast to push my buttons and just irritate me. But then all of a sudden, you came out of nowhere, out of left field, with some haymakers, but I appreciate it.
You know what kind of kicked me into gear? After you kissed me on the outro of our in-person podcast.
So I gave you a little bit of testosterone that you didn't have.
I mean, I won't go that far, but yeah, it was.
That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
Inspired me to give you a little bit more shit.
I gotta kiss you more often.
Yes. So kissing aside, all that sort of stuff. We're stepping onto new territory, but we should get into this. Let's get into this. Let's start our first foray on the ice. Let's do this final game of the season. Let's grind it out. Let's go. And we'll start with the Flames. We're going to talk Flames. We're going to talk Leafs first. We haven't actually talked a lot of any Leafs, I think, this year. So I want to talk about it's not only because it was 4-1 again, but we haven't actually talked about the Leafs. We'll get into where Evander Kane ends up. Graham, if you're watching, if Evander Kane is with the Oilers, you're coming on this podcast. I'm telling you that anyway. And other stuff. But we'll get into we'll start with the Flames. They went on their toughest test road trip. It started in Seattle and Chicago. Those are not tough tests, but Florida, Tampa, and Carolina became tougher tests, and maybe for some Flames followers and Flames fans, reality sort of started to set in. But those were three of the best teams, and if you're power ranking, you probably have Florida, Tampa, and Carolina somewhere in your top. Probably shouldn't be no lower than 5, I would think, depending on how you look at things. But it did expose some things for the Flames. And I guess one of the needs maybe I'll start this way. Then we'll start with Devin. What's more of a need for this team? A puck-moving defenseman or some depth scoring?
Depth scoring, 1,000%. Puck-moving defenseman, we're okay with. As far as I'm concerned, I'm okay with what they have on the back end there. You do have some decent skaters and one really good one in Oliver Shillington who can move the puck well when he's moving his feet. Noah Hannafin can move his feet pretty well. So depending on what type of style of puck moving defenseman that you're really looking at, if you're looking for a passer or for a great first pass, all of them can do it. So and depth scoring is definitely something that has been missing throughout this year. If that top line isn't going and if Backlund goes quiet, Mangiapane, he hasn't really been on the same clip as he was at the beginning of the year. So if you could solidify some more depth scoring within the lineup, then I think that would definitely benefit more than getting a puck moving defenseman.
Is there agreement across the board?
No. I think they've got I think they got the players. I think they have players down in the AHL that need to be called up that can add that depth scoring. I'm talking about Jacob Peltier. He is in the top 5 of AHL scoring as a rookie, a pure professional rookie. So I think they have the you've got Sean Monahan, who still only has 4 goals. You've got Blake Coleman with 6. You've got Michael Backlund with only 4. Dylan Dubé with only 4. I think if they've got the people up front. They just don't have someone other than Oliver Shillington. They do not have a better than average puck moving defenseman. And I think that's something that is really.
You don't think Noah Hannafin is better than average?
I think he's average. I think he's average. I think he's a good overall defenseman that can play all that. But I wouldn't say he's someone who's when he gets the puck, you makes you think twice. Shillington is the closest thing they have to that.
Well,
and that is something you look at all the top teams, they have that.
My question, my counter to that would be, what other, other than the notables who can skate really well out of the NHL, puck move defenseman, there's not. Does every single team have one really good puck move defenseman? Or I'd say let's go 3/4 of the top teams. Do they have a really good puck move defenseman?
Like
outside, or like one or two?
Who are your top teams?
Oh, I said 3/4 of the league, right? That's what I'm trying to get at, is that you do have those upper echelon players that can skate like the wind. But it depends on what you describe yourself as a puck move defenseman. Are you passing the puck? Are you skating the puck out? Because there's some smart players who aren't that fast that are able to have that first out, which is massive within the transition.
It's not just skating, it's not just passing, it's having the whole package that makes teams second guess. Rangers have Fox, Lightning have Hedman, Pittsburgh has Letang, Washington has John Carlson, the Toronto has Morgan Rielly, who is a very underrated puck moving defenseman. The Preds have Roman Josi. The Florida Panthers have Aaron Ekblad. And I'm just naming, like, in terms of like the true top teams, right? The teams that you look at it and go, all right, those are one of those teams. Colorado's got Cale Makar. They have that, and I don't see that with the Flames. And I think that's something that they need to rectify if they want to continue going forward and building on the momentum that has slowed a bit right now, but they've built up over this season, and it's something that they have said that they want more of.
Have you seen, or did you see Johnny Gaudreau's breakaway goal?
Oh, yeah.
No. You're, hold on. I'm just asking you a question.
Sorry.
Just answer.
Which one? Sorry.
Against Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you see that one? Because the guy who passed that puck, I was criticizing the signing, and that was Eric Branson.
They're all NHL players. They could all make that.
No.
Pass, like,
I'm not saying anything against you, man. I'm making some fun remarks. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, even Nikita's. I keep saying this, and people keep laughing at me, but Nikita Zadorov has some offensive abilities. He just doesn't use those offensive abilities a lot. It's not his role. It's not his game, but he has them. I would probably put puck moving defensemen ahead of a need of acquiring depth scoring. They need depth scoring. They are just not getting, and I think they have the players that can get depth scoring. But what concerns me is the back end of that defense does concern me. I think Hanifin is okay. I think that there are times that Rasmus Andersson is shines. He really does, but there are other times that Rasmus Andersson struggles. And I felt on that road trip that Andersson and Hanifin had a tough time. And I don't know. Nobody's talking about this, but I feel like Oliver Shillington has taken a bit of a step back the last month and a half. Well, to be fair, he hasn't really played, but he's not at the same pace that he's been at start in terms of like his quality of play. And Gudbranson and Zadorov, when you're facing top end teams, that just feels like that's such an easy matchup for them, especially when you're on the road. It's so easy to put a McDavid, Matthews, Ovechkin on there that I do think that there's a need. I would say that there's a need to get another defenseman into that lineup.
So then I guess in my mind that the question kind of rotates a little bit. Depends on what puck move defenseman we're talking about here. Realistically, right? If it's going to be a Cale Makar, the answer is hell yeah every time. I know that's an outlandish thought because that would never happen, but or Jamie Drysdale or a good young puck move defenseman. Now, if it was I guess there is a defenseman out there who just asked for a trade. I don't know if Kev, if you're going there with this, but you have,
Well,
go for it.
John Klingberg's name has come up. To clarify, he is not feeling appreciated in Dallas at the very least. Depending on who you hear from, he hasn't necessarily. Some have said he hasn't asked for a trade. Some have said it's kind of a request for a trade. He's 29 years old. He is seeking an 8-year contract at about $64 million, which would put that end of that contract at 37. This year, 1 goal, 16 assists, 17 points, -8. Unrestricted free agent. Devin, would you take the crack?
Depends who you're giving up. Yeah, as a rental for sure. But what parts are you moving back the other way? That's my massive point. Is what are you giving up? Otherwise, yes, I think that you do it. He's not the same player he was in back. What was it, 2-3 years ago? That was a very, very solid defenseman. And I'm not saying he's not, but he's on that first power play and only 1 goal. That says a lot. He has what you said, 16 assists, which is decent, but that I believe that's half point a game. If my math is correct, depending on how many games they have played.
A bit over, yeah.
Yeah.
1.56 probably.
That is definitely a player who you want to get, but it's what are you giving up?
Now he had a solid year last season. If you look at the past from 18-19 through till now, he is tied with Jeff Petrie with 130 points, which would puts them as a 16th, tied for 16th overall amongst defensemen in that time frame. And Dallas has been an up and down team. He was a big part of that cup run. Yeah, he's older, but it's not only just Klingberg that's available too. Like he's not even the top available defenseman right now. That's Jacob Chychrun, but he's also a right shot. Yeah, Klingberg, and I don't think he's getting that 8-year deal that he's looking for right now, just because of his age. But if you're able to get him signed make a trade and get him signed for 3-4 years, I think that's, or 4-5. Take a bad one or two bad season, like lower than what you want for a cap hit. That's probably what it's going to be. I don't think that's a bad get for a team that is in more of a win now window, like the Flames are.
I guess my only concern with the part that Dallas is, I don't necessarily think that they're in sell mode. It's a hockey trade. I really don't think Dallas is going to be selling. I think Dallas will be looking to make hockey trades. They're only 3 points back of LA with 3 games in hand. So if you're Dallas, I don't think you're necessarily selling that. You're not selling at this particular point. So that's a hockey trade. So that to me tells me that you're going to have to give up a pretty big piece off this team, which is likely a Rasmus, like to me, would be a Rasmus Anderson, a Sean Monahan. I'm not saying that it's all 3, but those are some of the names that we will be looking at. I don't think it's a Gaudreau or a Tkachuk. I don't think it's a Mangiapane. I think I could see a Dylan Dubé be in there. I could see a prospect like Connor Zary being involved.
That's too much.
Kev, you already. It's going to be more of a hockey trade, but a lot of that is to do with where the cap is and how almost every team is close to the cap. You can't just acquire a player with a significant cap hit and not have to send money back the other way.
No, fair, but this becomes the decision, because if you're making a hockey trade for a John Klingberg, then I would be thinking that you need to sign him.
That is a big part of what if any team that makes that a trade for John Klingberg has to have a contract. If it's a hockey trade, as you're saying there, Kev, there has to be a new contract for John Klingberg in their back pocket, ready to be official. The way that the Mark Stone trade happened a few years back.
Yeah, otherwise the ask is just way too high.
Yeah.
The only way I could see that would be a good rental and not having them resign is if it was Sean Monahan going the other way. And maybe not a 1-for-1 deal, but 1+ draft pick, no higher than a second, like 3 or under. That's the only way I could see that would be a good rental for both sides, because you're looking at Monahan to be potentially, I'm not going to say he's a Sam Bennett resurrection, but once he goes somewhere that he'll light the fucking shit up. But you really, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it now, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm Dallas, because Dallas's window is closing. It is closing very, very quickly. You have you locked yourself up with Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, who have done they're shit now. They're terrible. They're not good.
Seguin is worn out. Seguin is worn. He is a worn out human.
They're
being.
just broken.
Yeah,
that's their bodies have broken down. Like it's one thing with Jamie Benn, who's got 3 years after this, but you've got Seguin signed for another 5 after this season. So
and Friedman mentioned on the last episode of 32 Thoughts that basically that is the reason why Dallas is so gun shy with Klingberg, is because basically how these Seguin and Ben contracts have kind of burnt them as far as injuries and breaking down. And considering Klingberg's age right now, yeah, I can kind of get that logic.
Well, and they signed friggin' Ryan Sutter to a 3.65 deal, and that's for the next 3 years after this. It just seems like, okay, let's get a Band-Aid. And at some point, you got to blow it up. You have to.
Yeah, they are in an interesting place, and they have some guys. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a grab at Pavelski. Wouldn't mind having a grab at Alexander Radulov. Those are types of players that that do win games for you. They are clutch players. But to stick onto the defensive side, there's another name that has been popped up, and we talked about him when we were playing golf. He is playing tonight in Denver, Colorado. Would you take back Mark Giordano?
No.
He's not the guy. He's not the puck moving defenseman that he was. Yeah, I don't think he's a significant upgrade on what the Flames currently have.
And sentimentality alone is not worth it.
No, and what are you giving up? A 4th rounder, a 3rd rounder. I don't know. It's just if you want depth within the playoffs. When you're in the playoffs, especially defense, you want to make sure you have a lot of depth. Basically, you want to have 2 guys in your 7 and 8 spot who can play NHL minutes, and those are hard to find. So it depends on what you're kind of looking for, because Mark Giordano is a completely different situation and separate player than John Klingberg is. They're on different atmospheres, right? But I understand your thought process.
No, sure. I'm with you. I would not bring back for Giordano. I think that price would be too high. I think that the Kraken would ask for a 1st-round pick.
Oh yeah.
Because of who he is and his reputation. And
they'll probably get a 2nd out of it too. If realistically from a different team, not Calgary, but from a different team who thinks they're on the precipice, 2nd-round pick. That's probably what they'll get.
Yeah. I have another name that I would like to toss into the ring that I have brought up before, but what about Eric Gustafson? He was here before. He handled the power play. The power play was better when he was on it. He's not going to be huge. He's not going to be a huge price tag. You might be able to either add a Strome with him as well, or another scorer with Chicago. I think that would be a pretty shrewd acquisition by Mr. What did you call him, Sean?
Always the bridesmaid.
Mr. Always Bridesmaid, yes.
He's on Chicago. Gustafson's is interesting because, again, I don't think he's not necessarily an improvement on what the Flames already have.
I disagree.
He'd help the power play for sure because I don't think the Flames have a true power play quarterback, but 5-on-5 is where I think they need someone to be better than than what they have right now.
I don't know. I don't think Calgary would want him back. Like 800,000, and he didn't re-sign. I don't know. I find that baffling because he was so dynamic on that power play. But he would be playing third line minutes in first round power play, and there's a few of those in the league. I'm trying to remember one of them right now, but he's eluding me. Yeah, like Keith Yandel, like he's not a top 4 defenseman right now, in my mind.
No.
Right, but he's the number 1 quarterback on the power play, and he does help. So I could see what bringing him in would do, but I don't know if Calgary would want him.
Okay,
Rasmus Ristolainen.
Fuck no.
We already have a Rasmus. Do we need another Rasmus? The Flames need another Rasmus?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, Kevin. I think 5-on-5 is where they need him more. Like he'd help the power play, but what you need is a top 4 or even arguably a top pair puck mover. You're gonna have to pay for that, but that's what's gonna be the an addition that could take the Flames up a level as opposed to just tinkering around the edges and hoping that an Eric Gustafson would work.
Yeah, I mean, I just brought that up as a depth. It is a depth option, but I thought it would be a shrewd little option. I mean, it's kind of a Winnipeg Jets type of acquisition. They do that kind of thing, and that would be where it is. The other option is getting in on the Jacob Chychrun sweepstakes, and it sounds like it's not as expensive as people were expecting it so far.
From what I've heard, it's going to be a young roster player, a first round pick, and a top prospect, which is about as expensive as it gets in the NHL. Yeah, you'll have tinkering around it where you add like a second or a third or a B prospect or another sort of roster player just to make it work. But the core of all the big trades are there. There are about 3 to 4 big pieces, and that usually is a young roster player, a future first round pick, and a top prospect.
I guess I would want, if I was Arizona, I'd try to get as more. I don't think that they're asking enough for him, even though that is expensive. I think that you can get. I would be trying for 2 first round picks.
I think it all depends. Sorry, Kev. I think it all depends on who the player is and who the prospect is.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe I guess it'll be interesting to see how Arizona is taking it, because what I get the sense that what they're trying to do is trying to get this done before everyone else is going after defensemen at the trade deadline. So that, I guess that will be interesting. So maybe, but Chychrun
especially at that cap hit. That cap hit is really, really good. 4.6 for the next 3 years. Like that's phenomenal.
He's a guy that potentially could win a Norris Trophy.
If he's in the right situation, absolutely. He's 23 years old. Like, he's super young. Would he have ARB rights after that? No, he wouldn't. That's UFA. So he'd be walking UFA potentially after that, 3 years. But he'll give you 3 great years. And then if you're not doing well within those next 2, realistically, Calgary, that's pretty much what Calgary seems like it's going to be, especially with Daryl Sutter for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. So then you could sell him off again and get a bunch of money, especially with that cap hit once again, and he'll be more groomed within the NHL and just be better, I think, by 26 or 25. I'd say it's a win-win situation, especially with where Calgary's at right now.
Dubé first and Connor Zary. Do you do that?
I'd say Dubé a first, and then maybe a bit of a lower end prospect. But yeah, I mean, Matthew Phillips.
I think they, as Kevin said, that Arizona needs to win this deal, or at least feel like they're coming out winners, and they're going to need a top prospect out of that, and not just a sort of a 1B or a B level prospect or a B plus. Is kind of where I see Phillips, a B plus.
Ruzicka's up there as well.
But I don't think either Phillips or Ruzicka get it done. It's going to come down to Coronado, Pelche, or Zary.
If it was Zary, I think I feel like as a fan base or as a team, if you're questioning about it, like hemming and hawing, maybe not, then it's a good trade usually.
Valimaki, Kevin, would be more in that young roster player spot, but I would have Dubé ahead of him, and I think they would be looking at someone like that instead of a Valimaki.
Well, how about a first Valimaki and a Dubé?
No, I don't think that. I think they would want one of those prospects over Valimaki.
Well, okay, I'm not saying. I'm like, what about that trade? Just in general, what about that trade?
I don't think it gets it done.
Because then you basically have two NHL ready defensemen, a good middle six player that can score and has high upside. Both have high upside, and then a first round pick. I don't know. I think that moves the needle just a little bit, but no.
I don't know. It depends on Valimaki's health. I think first of all, I think they'd want Connor Mackey over Valimaki. I would think. I guess but for the Flames, there's three absolutely, and maybe four, but three for sure. I have untouchable prospects at this point. Dustin Wolf is a no-go. Connor Mackey would be a no-go for me, and Jacob Pelche is a no-go for me at this point. Those are guys I like in terms of like building the future. That's where those three guys you're building around. I'm open to the idea of Connor Zary. I wouldn't like it. I'm not super comfortable with the idea of Matthew Coronado, but I also don't know if he's going to sign here. So, because college players in Calgary don't always get along. So that's the one thing I would be concerned about. But he's a legit player, though. If I'm giving up Matthew Coronado, I want a lot for him.
And you are getting it with Chychrun, so.
It depends. In my mind, it really depends on, okay, if you give up one of those prospects, I feel like you can get potentially a better forward, which is what they're looking for. Like, it goes back. Like, to me, this brings a full circle back to Kevin's original question. They need better scoring especially in that second line. I'm sorry, it's not good enough right now. And yeah, everybody has potential there, but they haven't shown it this year.
So would you call up Jacob Pelche?
Oh, yes, but not yet. I would call him up at the very, very latest beginning of March. And if he does well at the beginning of March, because that should be when the Flames are ticking and they should be on the uphill spike. And if they're not trending towards the playoffs, it's hard to turn that switch on. And I feel like if they are middling, then yeah, I think you do. He hasn't played any games this year, right? So I think that would be good for him, but not yet.
Yeah, I guess the one of the other reasons I said puck moving defenseman is I don't think with Sutter's system, I think he's not worried about. I mean, he's worried about goals, but he's not worried about goals. If that makes any sense, like he wants enough goals. Like he wants 3 goals. As long as we don't allow more, the Flames don't allow more than 3 goals. I think he's fine, right? But I think overall that's sort of why. But and I guess, but it depends on the forward.
Yep.
I mean, I threw out the name in the offseason of Claude Giroux as a possibility. Now that is might come up here, maybe depending on where the Flyers are at. And I'm not saying the Flames should be in on Claude Giroux, but I mean, I would think that if you're going to get a scorer, it has to be a top 6 forward. I don't think it's a bottom 6 guy. I think it's a guy that that plays in that top 6.
If the Flames are going for that, there has to be a borderline first liner who can help make that second line what it needs to be.
Yeah, and to me, the defense is adequate enough to sustain, in my mind, what they need to do. It's just that, it has to be a second line border first line forward. Has to be. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. You were like Sean's favorite saying on this podcast, you're just shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic. Like it's pointless.
Yeah, so that I think it's interesting. I mean, I suspect that the Flames come Ottawa, I think we may see some shuffling of the deck chairs per se. Not saying it's on the Titanic, but I wonder if they start switching that first line around, getting some offense or created there. You have to. I guess Sean Monahan is a very interesting question because he hasn't got going yet. I think he's doing a lot of things right, but I think they need him to score. I'm not worried about Blake Coleman and his scoring because I think I don't necessarily think that they brought him in to make sure that he would get a lot of goals. I know that people are frustrated by that, but I think he just does so many other things right that I'm not worried about Blake Coleman. Mangiapane is doing fine. They need more from Dylan Dubé, and they need some offense from the fourth line. And so I think, that's why I think people are asking for Razic and Pelche because they could provide that offense. I wonder if we see Pelche. I would say maybe with Pelche, I'm thinking mid-February we see him.
That's fair.
If he keeps it up, I think it's hard. It'd be hard to keep him down there for much longer.
Yeah, you just don't want to. I guess I don't really see the like a bad scenario if he does come up like now or next game or the next 3 games. But I think that with Daryl Sutter and the way that he conducts himself, I think it'll be later on in the season, and hopefully Pelche or Ruzicka is able to step up because we know that if they can't, they're not going to get the ice time. Like Sutter won't give them the ice time, especially if they screw up a few times in a game. They're going to be on the fourth line easily enough.
And that's probably where they'll be initially anyway, but you're right. Now, you have to go, Devin.
Yes.
When we were about to get into the Leafs.
It's going to have to wait unless you guys want to shit talk the Leafs all day, as you normally
I wasn't going to shit talk them. But
okay, well, maybe you can be me. Pretend to be me, Kev. I know it's hard. I'm one of a kind.
I'm not even close to as good looking as you, first of all.
You speak better than me, all right?
I don't know about that. I use the English language, yes.
Yes. No, it'll have to wait till next week, and it kind of sucks considering this is the hockey podcast. So,
well, we'll talk about them next week.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. You can follow me on Twitter at Gordhouse09.
Gordhouse09.
Love you guys. See ya.
Love you. Bye.
Cheers.
See ya.
Oh, that's
well.
That's like
it is what it is. It's what he does on the hockey podcast. Hopefully, he doesn't do it on the next one.
Yeah. We love you, Devin. Even Tyler texted me and said, "Tell Devin I love him," even though I. Yeah, so maybe we'll transition this time to announce our contest. Maybe we'll use it here. This will be the time before we get into the next.
All right, yeah, you can. We have partnered up with the Pig and Duke here in Calgary. They've got 2 locations, one on 12th Ave and 12th Street Southwest, and one at 4th Ave and 4th Street Southwest. And at both locations, you can enter the Pig and Puck Club, which gives you game day specials for all Flames and Canucks games. It gives you, and then you can be entered to win a ticket to a Flames versus Vancouver Canucks game that is currently scheduled for April 23rd. You will get to go to the game with Devin, who hopefully will not run in or run out. Hopefully he'll be there for the whole time. Chris,
maybe he'll come in for the first period, take the second period off, and come back for the third.
Maybe. That sounds like many hockey teams. So, and then you'll get to go to the game with Devin, Chris, and myself. And if you want more entries to have that opportunity, we have 2 tickets to give away. And to get entered to win one of those 2 tickets, you can retweet any of our pod clips, any of our episodes, any of our game recaps, to get 1 entry into that contest. If you want more than that, you can DM us the word of the week to get 3 entries. And this week, the word is shifts. We are shifting to something new next week, and we want you to be a part of it. So DM us the word of the week, which is shifts, SHIFTS, to @podcast_hockey, and we will hopefully get to have some drinks, some laughs, and enjoy a Canucks win in Calgary.
I like the sounds of that.
Yes. As John commented, I am done with. I don't know what disease he's talking about, but he. Quaved. But let's touch on the Leafs here. I feel bad that Devin isn't here to defend the honor. And not that I'm going to criticize them so much. Yes, it was 4-1. Yes, it's one of those situations where they blew their lead. They're in a very difficult spot again, and it's not even let me make this statement. I mean, I think if they were in the Pacific, they would probably be. I think that we would have them. There would be a reasonable argument that they would be at least getting into the second round. But their first round is either going to be either Florida, Tampa, or Carolina, or the winner of the Metro Division. Because that East, like the top 8, it's top 8, top 7, 8 is like that's going to be hard for anybody. I just think, to me, where the Leafs are falling back is like Florida and Tampa are so damn good. I mean, one day we should have a debate on which defense core is better, Florida or Tampa, and I think that'd be an interesting conversation. But I just, I know that people love Jack. Again, I'm going to say this again. I know that there's love out there for Jack Campbell, and he made a couple of incredible saves against Colorado. But that defense doesn't scare me. Morgan Riley's underrated, but there's not anyone else on that defense that I would say is a high-end. We talk about high-end defensemen. TJ Brody has gotten better, but is he high-end? I don't know. Their forwards are fine. They're just in there. It's wrong place, wrong time for them, I feel.
Yeah, I think they talk about the team that needs to make a move on the blue line. Who could use with a John Klingberg or a Jacob Chychrun, even a Mark Giordano for something a little bit lower down in the roster. I think that's what the Leafs need. They've got Jack Campbell, who's been lights out arguably the second best American goalie this season.
Oh, that's a hot there's a shot out the bow.
Too bad Devin's not here.
But now we can get away with it because Devin's not here.
See, this is Devin. This is why you need to stay.
You've got goals saved above average, according to Natural Stat Trick, and 1-2 are Thatcher Demko and Jack Campbell, and everyone else is a little bit farther behind. So that's why. But he's been playing really, really good. He's right up there for the Vezina conversation. You've got Austin Matthews that since he came back, it has been lights out. Once they can get Marner back and get him going, watch out. William Nylander's been on fire. It's just I think it just defense. It's defensively if it wasn't for the fact that the Oilers are like in a tailspin, you can make the question: are the Leafs Oilers West or the Oilers Leafs East? They're that Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, in a lot of ways they are.
They really are. Other than the fact that the Leafs actually are getting goaltending, that's the difference. Actually, the Leafs are getting top end Vezina caliber goaltending. I hate saying that, but they are. While the Oilers are getting basement bargain bin goaltending. Like it's not good, and that's the biggest difference between those two teams. So I think they would be I wouldn't be surprised if we see, especially if they can continue to if they can recover from that mess on Saturday, which was one hell of a game to watch.
It was a great game, and that Colorado team is so damn good. Like, and can I defend the Leafs a little bit here?
No.
Just hear me out.
No.
Hear me out. Because I think if this was this is the Canucks and they were, or the Flames, or a team that went from an empty arena for a homestand to a place with live fans excited, they got off to a great start. But once that crowd got into the game, I think that threw the Leafs off a little bit too. I think that there was a lot of other adjustments in this that I think, I don't want to say was unfair to the Leafs, but I think it was a challenge to the Leafs that they, when going from an empty arena to a full rink, the emotions involved in that. At Colorado, I just Cale Makar, come on, folks. Cale Makar, ladies and gentlemen.
I remember we were having that discussion 2 years ago, who was better, Hughes or Makar, and man, it's not even close. And Makar is a step above Quinn Hughes right now.
And that's just no disrespect to Quinn Hughes.
No, it's not. Quinn Hughes is still a top 8 defenseman in this league right now, playing this season. But Cale Makar is top 2, 3.
And the other guy that nobody talks about on that team in terms of a defenseman is Devon Toews. He is so underrated on that team too. But that's it. It's I know we're trying to talk about the Leafs, but Colorado's in a very interesting situation where if what they do in goal is fascinating in and of itself. Do they trust Darcy Kemper? Do they make the move?
Do they trust Darcy Kemper to stay healthy? Because when he's healthy, he is a good goaltender and is definitely strong enough to backstop that team to deep into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it is the health issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just got Francouz back after not playing for almost a year and a half, or around a year and a half. And I know they're high on Francouz. So
that was actually going to be my next question: is do they have faith in their backup in that sort of sense that if Kemper does go out, that they feel like they actually have a decent option, or if they would be potentially hunting at the deadline?
The issue with what happened and has got the PTSD that is Colorado and their goaltending goes back to the bubble.
Yep.
When they had their top 3 goaltenders go down,
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah. Like, and that's where it is. Like, they had, I can't remember. Like, they had Francouz, they had Grubauer, both of them got injured. I think
And
Michael
Hutchinson got injured.
Hutchinson was in net for them. Varlamov wasn't there at that time. He is a former Colorado Avalanche goaltender, but he wasn't there at that time.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
He was already on Long Island at that point.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They have and you look at that. That's, I mean, if I'm Colorado and I look at this team right now, this may be one of your best opportunities to get a cup. So that's the other thing, is if you don't know if Darcy Kemper is going to be healthy, you need to make a decision about goaltending. PDQ. Yeah.
Pretty damn quick.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But getting back to the Leafs, I honestly think that if they're going to make a move, it's going to be for a defenseman. They blew
no sense.
Yeah, they blew their load last season, trading for Nick Foligno, but I think there's still some defensemen available that can help them.
Yeah.
They've got Riley, they've got Muzzin, who, when healthy, again, someone a player who's just beaten up. Like, hasn't been the same Jake Muzzin that was really good in LA and then really good for the Leafs when he first came over since the last couple injuries. Justin Holl has had a rough season. That hasn't helped. TJ Brody's been fine, but the problem is they just don't have, and they don't have anyone that you feel really comfortable playing outside of the Morgan Riley pair right now. Dermott hasn't stepped up big enough. Liljegren and Sandin haven't stepped up enough. And yeah, I think it is. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they make a move, even if it is for a veteran, stay-at-home, solid guy who could potentially just help, just stabilize a pair.
Sounds like a Geo would be a decent fit if you're going with that description.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good fit for them. I do also think they may need, like, just watching Florida and Tampa. Florida's not afraid of being playing angry and getting into the sandpaper, and I don't know if the Leafs have enough sandpaper to match them. That would be another area I would be looking at.
Especially on the blue line. Outside of Muzzin, who's got the sandpaper on that blue line? Hall can a little bit, but outside of that, there's not. I don't see it, which is why. And this may be. I'll throw this out there. It's probably not gonna happen, but Travis Hominick.
Well, I was thinking more Tyler Myers, but I see where you're going.
I don't. Again, Tyler Myers is he's playing fucking fantastic right now. Don't move him. Can't believe I'm saying that, but don't. And it's the contract. They don't have the. If they're going to look for someone, they're going to look for a rental, someone that they can maybe sign to a cheaper deal in the offseason if they can, but they aren't locked in on.
Yeah,
because they've got. Ilya Mikheyev needs a new deal after this season. He's going to want, especially if he continues to play like he has since coming back from the injury. Sandin and Liljegren need new deals. Andre Kasha needs a new deal. And it's just, and they're so top heavy cap wise. I don't think they can afford to bring in a $6 million defenseman. Especially one with term.
Yeah, like they're so cap strapped that anything that they do needs to be a very smart hockey trade, dollar in, dollar out efficiency, which I have faith in Gilman of pulling that off. But yeah, that's a reality that Toronto has to live with.
Yeah, I wonder about Ben Sherrod. I wonder if that's an option. If
A Toronto Montreal trade. When was the last time we saw that?
I think none of us were alive.
That being said, no one thought that Calgary and Edmonton trading was ever going to happen, and looks what happened in the past 5-ish years. There's been several.
Yeah, the Leafs are in a bit of a tough bind, and I mean the expectations are so high with them, and there's as Tyler said, Travis Tyler said, I was thinking about because you were talking about Travis. As Tyler said, they are a fragile team. It's just, and I don't know if that fan base is going to be patient, even if they realize that they're facing the top two teams. I think that there's expectations there.
There's a lack of patience for not getting past the first round, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But it's an interesting situation there, indeed. Anything else with the Leafs and the Flames that we did not touch on? I guess the only other update maybe is according to Ryan Pike, as City Council in Calgary is talking about the options in terms of the arena, what to do next. So what that tells me is I think eventually these two, they are going to go back to the table. Both of them will go back to the table. They will figure this out. This will get done. Like
I said in our group chat, this might be a game of political chicken, but the city needs that revenue just as much as Flames ownership does. So like you said, they're definitely going to get back together. They might be angry at each other, but they're going to get back together and they're going to try and figure their shit out.
Yep. Yeah. It'll get done. I think both sides know how much they want / need this new arena. So.
Yeah. For sure. So the Canucks are. Does anyone remember this team called the Vancouver Canucks? They play here in Vancouver, West Coast. They haven't played in 10 days.
Yeah, I don't think I remember them.
They have this shirt. They used to play with this somewhat. This bat one back. Remember that? Anyway. Well, they're back in action tomorrow against the Florida, as mentioned, powerful Florida Panthers. So now we get to see this next little bit. We will now get to see, not that I'm saying that the Canucks are frauds or not, but 10 days off. This is the quality part of their schedule. Not that they weren't playing quality teams, but this is a test. We're going to see. I think this is where Rutherford, Boudreau, and staff and everybody involved will kind of get a sense of where the Canucks are at.
This is the litmus test. This is where you find out whether you're a middling team, a shitty team, or a team that potentially could be good.
This will make or break what the plan is for the rest of the season,
or potentially longer.
I would say for the rest of the season, because I think, say they get through this and look good, it'll all come down to whether or not they can turn it into playoffs and more.
Yeah, I just meant that in the sense that Jim is probably more of a looking towards the future sort of leader, whereas Jim Benning was very much a how can I fix my last mistake sort of thinking.
Yeah. So I know there's been a lot of talk about what moves the Canucks could do, because I think armchair GMing is fun, and B, I think this fan base is looking. They are looking forward, but they're looking at moves instead of just looking forward to watching this team play hockey. Because I'm seeing, there's the Yaroslav Halak dilemma that the Canucks have coming up after 2 more games. He's due a $1.5 million bonus, I believe,
which is on next season's cap.
because of their cap situation this year, it would go as an overage into next season. So that would eat up some of the cap space that gets relieved because they wouldn't have
Luongo's cap per capture comes off the books in the offseason.
Luongo's cap per capture comes off the books.
But
Finally.
The funny thing is, as soon as they get off of Luongo's contract, the Holtby buyout in conjunction with the Halak bonus basically goes right back to the same amount we were paying Luongo.
Let alone the Jake Virtanen buyout as well. So I look at that, and like I said, I think it's you've got that. And I think it's a very interesting dilemma. If you're going to make a trade for Halak or make a trade with Halak, you have to make sure that you've got an NHL caliber backup coming back, because otherwise it's not going into this. How the Canucks have had 10 games postponed. And you're going to have, and so many other teams have had games postponed. You're going to have 3 and 4 and 2 and 3, and you're gonna have to play your backup. You can't just ride Demko as good as he's playing for the rest of the season. You're gonna have that, and unless you're absolutely certain that Mikey DiPietro is ready to be that, I think it's honestly, I think you bite the bullet and take that 1.5.
Do you not have faith in Spencer Martin though? Because he's been decent, and that gives
Spencer Martin. Okay.
Because that gives you Mikey some time to develop more in the A.
Hold on. Okay. He's an AHL goaltender at the moment. As much as I like
Devin just needs to stay. So Devin again.
As much as you have to have a true caliber NHL caliber backup if you're going to move on from Yaroslav Halak for to save the cap next year. And guess what? You're going to teams are going to know that too, and you're going to have to pay for it. Like, if you're going to want to be able to get rid of Halak, you're going to have to pay to get, like, you're going to have to make sure that you get an NHL backup in return, and you're probably going to have to give up a pick so that it's worth the other team to pay that overage next year, because unless you're trading him to Arizona or New Jersey, like, there's like a handful of teams that aren't going to be able to handle that cap now, and it won't get bumped to next year. It is what you're going to have to pay for it. So I think you bite the bullet and you stick with it, and you find other ways to free up cap space for next season if needed.
Fair enough. The only reason why I brought him up was more just in asking the question, not necessarily I was giving him my endorsement.
Yeah.
So, Sean, what you're suggesting is if the Canucks had to trade Halak, they'd have to throw in a sweetener?
Sweetener.
Hi, Tyler.
So, yeah. But and then also, yeah, this will make her, like, going back to this road trip. Yeah, it'll make or break what the plans are for the rest of the season. If they falter and they they fall back, because how many points back out of the playoffs right now?
They're, I think, 5. Wait,
we were at 1 point 3 points out of the second card wild spot, but that was also before I think a couple games got played. So I'm not sure what it's currently at.
The second wild card spot is currently held by LA at 39 points, and the Canucks are at 35. The Canucks have a game in hand against LA, and they have to hop over Dallas, Winnipeg, Edmonton, and San Jose. So it's still a long shot, but which is why they have, like, this is a very important road trip, because if they can find a way to even scrape out 500, that's huge. That's huge, because you look at what happened to Calgary doing a mini of this, going through playing against Carolina and both Florida teams, Tampa and Florida. Like, it's just, they got absolutely shelled. And if the Canucks can find a way to scrape out .500 or better, that's huge. That'll really set the table for them to make a strong push for the playoffs. But if they don't, then what does Jim Rutherford do, or whoever the GM is come the deadline? They've got Brock Besser needs a new contract for next season. You've got JT Miller and Bo Horvat who need new contracts after next season. Tyler Mott would be a player that playoff teams would absolutely love to have. And again, Halak as well. Like if you're a team that wants to give their starter a rest before the playoffs and you don't trust your backup and you're sort of still jockeying it out for positioning, why not? If you're a contender or whatever, and you want to get home ice and everything. So, and then you've got, I don't know, I just look at this. Yeah, it is. But one thing I will say, and I think it's going to hold, I don't see anything big coming from the Canucks for the rest of the season in terms of movement, other than the hiring of the GM. I don't see a big trade. I think they'll play this out unless the wheels fully fall off again. Please no, I can't do that. I don't see it. I see them going out. I see them trying to see what this team has. And try and get a half a season look at this team close up.
But Sean, Canucks Twitter told me that JT Miller is being traded.
I don't see that happening. That would rip the heart and soul out of this team, and you would lose the lot. Like they've rebuilt what was a broken locker room since Boudreau came in, and you would rip the heart out of that.
Like Bo is definitely the emotional leader, or the core leader of this team. But as far as like who is the heartbeat of this team, you can't argue against. It's JT Miller. Like it's obvious. He's clearly the guy who like picks everyone up onto his back and is just like, "Let's go, boys."
To me, I think right now I agree with Sean. I don't think that even if you slide out and you're in sell mode for those listening, air quotes, I don't think you trade anybody off that core until you off season and you can truly make this a true hockey trade, because trading JT Miller isn't a trade that you can win selling, because I don't think that you'll be able to get the prospects that you want. Besser, I think it's the same thing. I understand that contract, but that is such a tough trade to make. Bo Horvat's your captain. That's a tough trade to make. And I'm sorry. I maybe Jim Rutherford and I don't see this the same way, but if Pettersson's not untouchable, it's going to take a hell of a lot to get him out of my Vancouver lineup.
Yep.
I'll make a bold prediction. If they move anyone out of this quote unquote core to help restock the cupboards and get younger, it will be Petey. I know it. I know. I can see you. I don't want it to happen. I think he'll turn it around, and it won't. And we won't. But I think if there's anyone that right now, if they were to make a decision right now, I think it would be Petey.
I hear that. The only thing that I'm petrified of is a McKinnon-like turnaround from Petey, and then just fucking making us regret it like no tomorrow.
The only other way that I could possibly see that too is, and I'm not saying he has, but unless he's asked, he wants a better situation. That I could see. I think it's tough. It's a tough trade to make.
Oh, it is. But so would it be JT Miller trade? So would it be a best? Like trading top players is tough because you're going to 99 times out of the 10 you're giving up the best player in the deal, and you're hoping that one of the young players prospects and picks that you get back can can become that or better. That's what you do. That's what 90% of those trades are, is you're trading for futures and hoping that one of those hits to the point where that player is.
Yeah. Do you think Canucks Twitter would blow up?
They would go nuclear.
And any of those trades, the Canucks Twitter would blow up and go nuclear.
True.
Well, I don't know if I super agree. I will agree with Rick Dollywall, and I are on the same page. I don't think that you should trade a JT Miller, and I think that there's a lot of fans that think that JT Miller is an easy trade, and that's a tough trade to make. That is not a guy you win cups with JT Miller's. That is not a guy
I'll say this right now, Kev. The fans and the media that think that trading JT Miller is the right trade to make right now are the ones who are stuck in spreadsheets and capfriendly.com.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I just. Yeah, he's not a guy that you trade. Like he is the Matthew Tkachuk. A different style of player, but he's the guy that drags you into the battle. He is the guy, and you know what? I get it that people were like all the F-bombs last year, and like I'm not sure that he's probably not your personal cup of tea. Like you may not want to go out and have a beer with him, but he will win you a couple hockey games, and important hockey games. It's
called fucking emotion, Kevin, and teams need it.
Yeah, I'm one that's firmly behind team emotion. Like I firmly believe that is how you win. You win games with emotion and with that kind of stuff. But I think I think this fan base has severely underestimated the value of JT Miller.
That they got him for pennies on the dollar too. Yes, I can understand the idea that making that trade at the top at where the Canucks was a fast forward button that didn't necessarily work, but value wise, getting him for a late first round pick you could honestly, if we talk about what the price of a Chychrun trade would be, I honestly think you could get a first, a young NHL player, a first, and a prospect. May not be like pure A prospect for a JT Miller, maybe a B plus, but you're still getting 3 really good pieces in a JT Miller trade if you're going to just sell for pure futures.
But that young player. But the one thing I would say though is that's just like that is not like because what you're giving up here is the prospect that I would want. Like this is the type. You're gonna roll your eyes when I say this name, but hear me out. This is the kind of the prospect that you want is a Logan Stankoven, a Mason McTavish, a Jacob Pelche, one of those kids that he is going to fight for every yard on that ice. That's not because he is on somebody's spreadsheet. Pardon your use there. That is on your top prospect. It is, and I'll say this with every intended bias behind it. It is a WHL prospect. I didn't stutter.
But Mason McTavish is O.
Or Mason McTavish, who did get traded today, by the way.
He did. I saw that.
Yeah.
He's no longer a Peterborough Pete.
He is in Hamilton. I put that in the Hockey Podcast News Pack. That's out around 3:00 Pacific every Monday to Friday. Shameless plug.
I'm just to clarify. I'm not saying do it. I honestly think sticking with what this team is and maybe adding a fourth line center, maybe someone who center, maybe a right shot fourth line center, to this team and just see what happens. Maybe move out one of your right side defensemen and try and just get some assets for him. That right side needs a little more rebuilding and retooling come the off season, but whatever they've got is working right now. But I just look at that. I'm not. I think you stick with what you have for this season. Yeah, depending on where the team is at come the deadline, yeah, I bet you could get a second round pick for Tyler Mott at the deadline.
A second rounder, that like
I don't. I would say a
the
third.
value.
I don't know about a second.
I bet you could get a second round pick for Tyler Mott.
Okay, what are we betting?
Beers. What else do you bet?
Fine. To me, I don't think there's any ads right now. I don't think. I mean, if there's one guy that I could see that you could trade, that I'll throw a name out, and that no one has talked about it. I think that you may be able to get more than you think is Jason Dickinson. Speedy center, versatile. Don't quite think he's quite been a true fit in Vancouver.
He's been so much better under Boudreau, though.
That's fair. And by the way, under no circuit, you would have to give me a lot to get Connor Garland out of Vancouver too.
Oh, you're not, no. When I'm saying tinkering around the edges at the deadline, if they are in sell mode, it's your depth players, your depth depth players who are rentals.
Yeah,
you aren't moving players with term. You aren't moving core pieces or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I'm saying though. I'm with you. I don't see the big trade done during the season. I think first of all, you need to get that general manager in there, and that general manager, which Rutherford is mentoring, that is not his first trade, his or her first trade at all. You do not want to put them in a situation that is a complicated trade in this market that you have to win that trade, and that is just it's tough.
I just want to go back like a half topic here. Sean brought up like the whole JT Miller acquisition and his pennies on the dollar and whatnot. I had a thought that it's been multiple GMs, so it's not just like one administration, if you will. But the fact that the Canucks have been able to fleece teams that are cap strapped for a decently strong player has been quite impressive over the years. The fact that they were able to get Ehrhoff out of San Jose when they brought in Heatley. The fact that they got Nate Schmidt out of Vegas when they picked up Pietrangelo, getting JT Miller out of Tampa for a first because they couldn't afford his cap moving forward. Like the amount of times that the Canucks have been able to pick up a significant piece for a pretty steep discount just because of cap problems, I think it's actually kind of impressive.
Are you a betting bro, Chris?
I mean, two of those
I wasn't on either side of that.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So two of those moves weren't betting, so.
Exactly. Ehrhoff was Gillis.
Yeah.
Schmidt was.
Oh no, two were betting, but
yeah.
But they ended up just tossing Schmidt to Winnipeg for the same price. So.
Like, as much as we liked to shit on Jim, he did have some decent moves. It's just that his track record wasn't overall great.
When the chips were down, he didn't make the best moves in terms of free agent. Trades weren't bad. You look back at his trade record, it's not terrible. He actually did pretty well. It was the free agent signings that were the issue.
Oh yeah, those are what tanked his ultimate career in Vancouver.
And the picks of Virtanen and Ulevi. That's also buried him as well.
Yeah, he had a couple just absolute trades that just didn't work out too. Getting Goodbranson, the first Goodbranson trade was not good. You look at how good Jared McCann is now. You look at Goodbranson was never a fit. Yeah, they got Pearson for him. By the way, Pearson's another player who has shone under Boudreau. He's the Pearson that I know he hit. Like, that's the player that Tanner Pearson is. That what we're seeing now, and he's a borderline, like, he's a good sort of lower tier second line player now. Like, he's not one who's going to drive the play, but he's a good sort of supporting role grinder second line player.
Yeah, I would say decently supporting second line player or a pretty impressive third line player.
Yep. But yeah, I think just getting us back to what to look forward to in this road trip though is I really hope that sounds like Pettersson did not have any was asymptomatic, didn't have to deal with anything just other than testing positive. Besser's back. Hopefully he continues to take the Bruce Boudreau advice to heart, just keep shooting because that worked. And if they can get Pettersson going and JT Miller and Bo Horvat can have lines that are going, then I don't see why they can't push up. And that blue line is big and is not afraid to get dirty. And going through, especially Florida and Tampa, you have to. Both those teams know how that you have to play mean, you have to play dirty at times. Just look at those two teams play against each other.
Yep.
Those are the Florida man battle is must watch hockey.
Yeah, and Bobrovsky, by the way, he's got his game together too. He's playing really well. Yeah, I mean, not an easy trip, but we'll see what happens, and we will be here next week to discuss it. Before we go to other NHL, this was a topic brought up by on Sportsnet 650. And I thought this would be a good discussion here. Who has the most trustworthy coach management group of the Canadian teams? So the Calgarys, the Edmontons, the Vancouvers, the Winnipegs, the Torontos, the Montreals, Ottawas, etc. Now that we have the Rutherford, Bruce and Boudreau conversation here, combo here in Vancouver, kind of curious where we rank everyone there.
What do you mean by trustworthy?
Stability. They bring a stability into the organization.
Well, we've got what? Gorton and Ducharme in Montreal. Let's see. You've got president of hockey ops, no GM in Montreal, and a coach that I don't think is going to be there next year.
No, I don't think he may not be there for the rest of this year.
No, I think.
Oh yeah, he did say he was going to be there for the rest of the year. Fine, that's true.
In Ottawa, you've got DJ Smith and Pierre Dorian. In Toronto, you've got Dubas and Keefe. In Winnipeg, you've got Cheveldayoff and Dave Lowry as an interim. Tippett in Holland. Treliving and Sutter.
Tippett for now.
Holland does have a press conference tomorrow, but I believe I fully expect it to be just what we saw from Jim Benning at the end of his legs, where he got fed to the wolves and then I was starting that countdown for what was it, like 14 days or 20 days?
I think it was 18.
18 days.
Yeah.
My countdown started.
Yeah.
They also have 5 players and six staff and 5 players in protocol right now. So I think there's a lot more going on than the coaching decision at Edmonton. So
and then you've got Rutherford and Boudreau, both new.
But yeah, as far as stability and trustworthiness, I feel like there's so many different variables and scenarios going on across the 7 teams that it's hard to kind of really put them on a level playing field and judge them.
The way I'll look at it is if you look at resume and everything, I think you have to give it to Rutherford and Boudreau, with the Flames duo as a close second. Because for me, I don't trust Kyle Dubas to know when to change up his and Keefe to change up their approach. Rutherford has had to do that and has proven he can. Sutter's made some changes and all that. How is Edmonton not running away with the Pacific Division?
Well, they don't have a goal.
Yeah, but that's again goaltending. Yes, I get it. But that was their choice.
They chose 2 more years of Mike Smith at what, 39?
They could have had Marc-Andre Fleury for fucking free.
I'll go even further than this, folks. They could have drafted Carter Hart or Spencer Knight and did not do either of those things.
So, Shovel Dayoff, he's probably the most quote unquote stable out of the long term. Him and Troy Living are the two most stable GMs of the ones with
the most tenured of their current, yeah.
But don't have a coach, so I think that nullifies that. Ottawa, they've made some good moves, but they're still a bottom feeder team.
They show some promise, but yeah, they're still got a significant ways of upward trajectory to work on.
And they completely overpaid on Matt Murray.
Yeah, that trade was not a good trade.
Yeah, so the way I look at it is just you throw that all that out there, and yeah, you can yell at me saying I'm biased and all that, and the fact that we're talking about Vancouver with the two newest coach, like the newest coach and the newest president of hockey ops, not even a GM, running things, but they
on a hot streak.
But they have the resume. Gorton put together a very good rebuild in New York, but is Ducharme the long-term solution in behind the bench in Montreal? I don't think so.
No, I think Gordon's just kind of formulating his plan and buying his time to put his plan in place.
When Ottawa finally gets good, I don't think DJ Smith's going to be there.
Yeah, I just want to point out that I think he's also paying for David Quinn's French lessons.
And then you've got, Shovel Day, no long-term coach in Winnipeg, and the Jets have not had they haven't made it to the third round under Shovel Day off. Right?
Yes, they have.
They made it to the third.
They made it to the third. They lost to Vegas in the third round.
Yes.
In that year. Okay.
Yes.
So they've had one deep playoff run, but no coach. And then Edmonton again. You're wasting Connor McDavid
and Draisaitl. Yes, Connor by a couple more years, but still, you're wasting away their prime years by just being a middling team.
And not actually understanding you need goaltending.
Well, no, they're going to score 10 goals. Everything will be fine. Connor McDavid will score 12 points a game, obviously.
They're going to win 8-6.
So I've said Vancouver and closely with Calgary close behind. What about you two?
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. And I realize that doesn't make my take any more original. But at the same time, for the same reasons why you pointed out holes with other ones, I would probably agree that my bias is going to show. But the city I live in and the team I cheer for are probably the most stable and trustworthy.
I know that they don't have a coach, but I'm going to give it to Winnipeg. I just think that, even go back to how Paul Maurice stepped away from that position. There's an authenticity and just something in that organization. Even the whole Kevin Cheveldayoff controversy, how that was handled, how the pitchforks were out for him. They were really out for him. And how Mark Chipman stepped in and how they handled all that, how in a Canadian market, although it's hockey hotbed everywhere, and it's hockey hotbed in Winnipeg too. You don't hear the screaming and the yelling, and I mean, Jean Guy, again, Devin, Jean Guy, yeah, people asking for the firing of Paul Maurice, and yes, but it wasn't this. There's just the Jets have something stable. I mean, yes, you're right. They haven't had a lot of playoff success, but I feel like there's a trajectory of consistency that's been through that organization over the years, and I would give it to them.
That's fair.
And I would put the Flames second right now, and I would probably put it's a toss-up between the Canucks and the Leafs. I mean, I think, to be fair to the Canucks, they are two stable people, but it's very early in this, where the Leafs have been at this a little bit longer. And I don't know. I wonder if Kyle Dubas is going to change some things up. I wonder if Kyle Dubas leaves Toronto, I think in his next job, it will be a much different general manager, a la what we think of a Dallas Eakins or a Travis Green as a coach.
Well, and but that's why I hold it back, because I don't think he's going to make the necessary moves to change how the team is built and how the team plays until he gets a kick in the pants.
Well, again, that's also I don't want to toss the media under the bus here, but there's sort of an expectation of how the Leafs should be playing from Leafs Twitter, Leafs fans, Leafs media, that I think maybe getting out of there and in a different hockey environment may change that. But to me, the top two, I would put Winnipeg, Calgary right now, and then I would probably put Vancouver, Toronto 3-4. I would probably put Edmonton 5 just in terms of length. I would put Montreal 6, and I would put Ottawa 7. I don't know. I kind of feel Ottawa should be a bit more ahead than where they are. I think that they're actually. I think they're quietly one of the most disappointing teams this year. I'm not saying that they should be in a playoff spot, but look at where Detroit is.
Yeah, they shouldn't be a lottery team. I agree with you.
I mean, you've signed Brady Tkachuk, Pierre Dorian. Something under talked about. Pierre Dorian said at the beginning of this season, they are no longer rebuilding. The rebuild is over. So there was an expectation on this organization to be a lot higher than they were.
That's ridiculous, because they only have two NHL defensemen right now.
Well, tell that to Pierre Dorian.
Yeah. Eric Brandstrom has been a bust. They've got Shabbat, fantastic defenseman. Artem Zub is an underrated defenseman, but the rest, they're all players that you can improve on.
Yeah, the handling of the goaltending has been not only the Matt Murray situation, but all of it.
Well, they need Jacob Bernard-Docker to step up and become an NHL defenseman. Next year, when they have Sanderson step up, hopefully, or he should be there next year. With Detroit, the big thing is they've got defense. They've got a beast in Moritz Seider. They've got Philip Hronek, who's also only 24. Like, they've got the building piece. So does Ottawa, but they haven't hit yet. While Moritz Seider comes in and is a Calder Trophy nominee.
One is being run by a Hall of Famer. One is not.
I think you look at where Detroit is, and they've the other thing is Ottawa tore it down to the bones too. Detroit didn't necessarily. They still have some good younger players who aren't quite in that same area. They've got Larkin, who's 25, Bertuzzi 26. Picking up Robbie Fabry for what they did is a steal of a deal as well. Well, Ottawa they've got Kachuk and Stützle and Batherson, all very good players. But out back behind them is you got Brown and Tierney, who are 27. Like, they just don't have anything. And Norris is good too, but it's, for me, it's that blue line. They just don't have an NHL caliber blue line.
Yeah, their back end, their defense and their goaltending is just left out. Like, I am excited about Jake Sanderson. I think he's going to be a good player, and I think they've got the building pieces of a good defense, but they've got a lot of work to do. And
all right, so it's Jake. Okay, I kept wanting to say Derek.
It's Jake.
It's Jake.
He is the son of Jeff Sanderson.
I know. I mean, it's not even a relation. We got former Canuck Jeff Sanderson as Jake Sanderson's dad. I should know this. That's why I just said Sanderson. I didn't want to pull a Devin. But yeah, you're right, Kev. I think they are a bit of a disappointment, but I think that next season is the big one. Can Jacob Bernard-Docker step up? Can Jake Sanderson step up? If both those players can step up and be top 4 defensemen, you've got 3 young defensemen that you can build around. Let alone you won't have Brady coming off of a no training camp season, like holdouts off season. You're gonna have Drake Batherson signed long term on a hell of a deal. He's less than $5 million for Drake Batherson. That's going to be a steal in 2 to 3 years, like a Nathan McKinnon type steal. I think that's how high.
That's saying something. Like, I know he's good, but that's quite the statement.
And then you got Stützle and Norris. Like, they've got pieces. It's just that blue line is just not there. Not yet.
Yeah.
And if Jake Sanderson can step in and be even 80% of what Moritz Seider is, that'll be huge.
Yeah. I think it's just going to take a lot longer, but I think the expectations, especially after the run they gave in the North, I think that, after Eric Francis called on the bingo card, Ottawa kind of got it pushed ahead. And I mean, they competed with teams. I think the expectations were a little higher. I'm not saying that they were a playoff team, but I think it's fair to say that this has been a bit of a disappointment.
They're also they're in the same division as Detroit, but that division is just hell if you don't have defense.
Nope. Yep. The East is hell if you don't have defense.
True.
This league is hell if you don't have defense.
So yeah, I look at that, and yeah, I completely see where you're coming from, Kev. And yeah, that like I said, you can call me biased or whatever. I look at the resume that Boudreau and Rutherford have, and yeah, they're brand new on the job essentially, but that I feel like that stability has already just. You're talking about it's calmed down the market a lot, and that is a very volatile market.
For sure. No, that's fair, and that's why you put them up there, and I understand that. Yeah.
The only thing that I want to add, if we're just kind of putting the last point on the whole which Canadian team is most stable, I will agree with Kevin if we're on Winnipeg being at the top, if we're also including ownership in with that. Because I think Shipman plays a huge part in that stability and maturity and just calmness. Whereas you can talk about other owners for Canadian teams are definitely, I would say, not as much of a calming force as what Shipman is.
Yeah, if you're going to compare it, like I would say that you've got the top 4, right? You've got Calgary ownership, which is making waves with this deal, with the arena deal, and not keeping things calm and stable or trustworthy at all there. Well, the Aquilini are the Aquilinis. We know how the fan base feels about and the market feel about them. You've got Chipman, they're very stable, and then you've got the Uber Rogers Bell conglomerate of that own the Leafs.
Don't forget about Daryl.
Oh well, I said the top four.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I mean, I don't think Daryl and Cates and Jeff Molson have been awful owners in their respective places, but I
just I just like put it in based off the what we would I guess agreed on as like sort of the top four.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about Chipman is after that press conference, haven't heard a peep about what the Winnipeg Jets and they have been doing about some of the things he talked about that he assured us that he wanted to get done.
The institutional change that he vowed to help with.
And I know it's early, but I'm just pointing that out. I think, and I'm only saying that because I think there was the Hockey Diversity Alliance have come up with stuff today, a lot this weekend in terms of some of their advertisements. We're seeing a guy. We'll get into this, but we're seeing a guy that has been given is about to be given his 943rd chance. While I'm sorry, there's been so little support towards Kyle Beach. There are some things that still need to be reminded of that I still need to happen. I'm not saying that, everything needed to change today, but, and there is progress, but that's one thing I will say.
Yeah. But
anyway, speaking of 939 chances, Evander Kane was put on waivers with the purpose of be given his contract terminated. Contracts terminated, cleared waivers, contract terminated, and apparently teams are interested in adding this guy as a free agent. I guess they look at this as a cheap option for a guy that we may grant has some talent, but is certainly
a locker room cancer.
He brings some complications.
Well, first off, the PA has filed a grievance for that. I do not see.
One day I'm going to have a long rant about the NHLPA.
They only care about the money.
Yes, they do.
But I don't see a team signing Kane until we know what the ground rules of that grievance will be. Because if they sign him and say it gets overturned and he's played games, what happens there? That
turns into a total nightmare mess. Yeah.
Nightmare clusterfuck of epic proportions. And I don't see them wanting to deal with the bureaucratic mess that would be.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in that sense. There's definitely going to be teams that want a power forward and what he can provide on the ice. It's just a matter of, figuring out the details of what this grievance is going to be, and then also figuring out what the magic number that he's willing to sign for now that he doesn't have that contract anymore, what he's willing to play for now.
The other thing is, and just to clear the air, I don't think he should be allowed to play in this in the league now. Regardless of everything he's gone through with his partner and the gambling debts and all the gray area there, the fact that he tried to pass off a fake vaccine card and then what had instigated this waiver move and termination of contract was that he did he tested positive and then flew to Vancouver.
And then overstayed his time in Vancouver because he was apparently supposed to come back. He flew to Vancouver on the 29th, was supposed to fly back, I think, on New Year's Eve, and didn't report back until the 6th.
Yeah, and it just I just look at that and I'm like, if there's a team out there that feels like they can control him, good luck. Good luck.
It would require a Lou Lamoriello type hold on being able to keep him disciplined.
And I'm sorry. It's just, I know he's gone through a lot in terms of everything went in Winnipeg and then Buffalo and now San Jose. But at that point, is it is that really an issue with these teams and players, or is it a him issue? And a point where, are you willing to disrupt your locker room and your team chemistry to bring in him middle of the season after everything after everything we just mentioned, let alone more?
And there's no evidence that you win with Evander Kane. There's just none at this point. And I know that I saw that people on Twitter, you win with Evander Kane. No, you don't. You do not win with Evander Kane. You lose with Evander Kane.
He is not a clutch type scorer.
No.
In that sense. Like he's not that sort of magic spark that is going to all of a sudden turn you from a potential contender to a bona fide contender. He's not that difference maker.
Yeah.
He's a good power forward, but he's not that top tier difference maker.
He's made the playoffs twice in his NHL career. One was in 18-19 with the San Jose Sharks, and he scored 8 points in 20 games. I'm saying this right now, any team that picks him up is going to regret it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. I think we're all in agreement as far as our take on him as not only a human being, but how detrimental and cancerous he ends up being in the locker room.
I'm sorry. It's just no. It's just not. No, I'm not sorry. It's just,
no.
Yeah, he can score 20, 30 goals, but it's not worth it. I know there's people he's from Vancouver. I'm like, no, you don't want it. This 8-0-1 under Bruce Boudreau. We talked about this. You just fixed a broken locker room. Chemistry, the thing with hockey, and this is something I don't think it's talked. Chemistry in hockey is so huge. If you have it, you can outplay the sum of your parts by a mile or more. And if you don't, you can underplay the talent on your team by a lot. It's I just look at that and I shake my head. I shake my head because it's not worth it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's not a person I would touch. And I tweeted this out earlier. I said I'd rather have Kyle Beach than Evander Kane. I know he's never going to get a shot because of his age. But I just wish that some team would be looking at Kyle Beach the same way that they would be looking at Evander Kane. And I know it will never happen. I think there's probably, unfortunately, there's a better chance that Evander Kane will be playing on the Canadian Olympic team than Kyle Beach, but I think Kyle Beach deserves at least that look and should be on some lists. I think hockey owes him that. I don't know where he is at in terms of wanting to play with anybody or whatever, but
what are his stats in Europe? Is he how well is he playing over in Europe? That's one thing I'm not quite sure about.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Kevin. But
and I'm being more sentimental and emotional than probably realistic, and I get that. But I think to me what bothers me so much about all these teams taking a look at Evander Kane is it really shows how wrongly done by Kyle Beach was.
Oh, he totally was.
Yep.
Yeah.
No arguments there. Basically, the same reason why people or teams are willing to potentially look at Evander Kane despite everything is the same reason why Montreal still decided to draft Mailloux. They saw what was on the ice and they put the blinders on. That's all it was, or all it is.
Yeah, the thing with the thing with Kyle Beach, and like I said, yeah, you admitted to it all being emotional, empathetic. He's playing in the third tier German league.
Yeah, and I get that. I just
But yeah,
no, I get. But
on a human level, he deserves.
On a human
more.
level, he deserves so much more than what he got, for sure.
Yeah. Anywho, that's that. Would be interesting to see what happens there. One thing I didn't put on the agenda, I do want to touch on before we get to the reminder about the Canadian men's and women's team. In terms of the WHL, 15 teams are on pause right now, including the Calgary Hitmen, including the Kamloops Blazers. Seattle is Victoria due to COVID protocols. 8 games have been postponed right now, including some Hitman games as well. So it's not only the NHL that is dealing with this COVID issue, the WHL is as well. They are planning a 68-game season. They are intending to do that. They are hoping to reschedule these games, but it's affecting even games that I'm calling with the Greater Vancouver Canadians, travel restrictions, COVID, all of this.
Don't forget about the AHL either. They're also being hard hit by
Yeah.
COVID and postponements and all that too.
Yeah. So I just hope for all of them, all of these. I mean, I hope for the NHL they complete the season, but especially for these minor leagues or some of these development leagues, my empathy goes out for them that they can't complete a season. And this would be the 3rd year that they would be going through this.
Yeah, it just sucks. Yeah. It really does. I just hope we see some We heard that Mason McTavish, Owen Power, Kent Johnson as names as potential Canadian Olympians, and I just want to get into that, and I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what? It would never happen. It would never happen, especially this spur of the moment. Could you imagine if they just made it the World Juniors?
That's what I think they should do it. I think that would be a great.
It's too late to shift that now, unfortunately, but it would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the teams that those players belong to would be like, hey, we agreed to this for the World Juniors. We're not going through this again.
But it would be fantastic because that just would be like you look at the Olympic soccer tournament. It's U23, I think it is an age. Yeah. They're allowed to have like one or two players outside the age range, but for the most part, it's an age tournament, which I think is an age limit tournament, which I think is fantastic. And I think that's if you don't have the NHLers in it, that's what they should be looking at going forwards.
True. Yeah. So that way you don't get like the career long AHLers or European player style roster construction.
Even if it's, say, you just make it under 22, so that you can still have some young AHLers that can go. Mm-hmm. And then you're not necessarily just doing a repeat of the World Juniors or getting rid of the World Juniors, which is a huge moneymaker for the IIHF every year, especially when it's hosted in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, that's what TSN I think would want something to say about that, having that World Junior.
Oh yeah, let alone their media partners for sure. Yeah. But I think if you could find a way to, if you cannot get the NHLers to go, but what the next Olympics are in Italy?
2026 in Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, they've gone before. We'll do it again. This time this time Canada will actually do well in that tournament. Ugh.
Yeah, that was a horrible. I forgot about. Yeah. Nagano was when they didn't have Wayne Gretzky do the shootout. But Italy, Turin wasn't good either, for sure.
And I believe they're playing for the most part in Milan in 2026.
Yeah. So, but I think it'd be, if you can't get the NHLers to go, do a U22 tournament or U23, so you can get young, like I said, some younger AHLers combined with some the top junior age players. I think that'd be fantastic.
Mm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Also, just put together a proper fucking World Cup and stick with it. Don't just have it 1 year and then forget about it. And then, we're not going to Olympics. Oh, we'll bring it back. You want us to actually fucking care about the World Cup? Have qualifiers. Treat it like soccer treats the World Cup.
True. Yep. It's not
I
just a
think
carrot to dangle.
I think they bring back the Canada Cup. Bring it back.
No, we don't need to call it the Canada. It's essentially the same thing, Kevin.
I know, but the name is fun. What's wrong with you and fun? They should bring back the old Canadian Gretzky Lemieux jerseys.
I'm okay with those. Those are great jerseys.
Those are great jerseys. Those were awesome jerseys.
Bring back the 72 jerseys. Those are fucking fantastic jerseys.
Yeah, I'm hearing Graham Mosman starting to swear here, but he better not dislike those old Canadian jerseys.
One thing I want to just mention, they will be announcing the NHL All-Star team on Thursday.
Yeah, one other thing I did want to mention, though, just before we move into that, the women's team is being announced tomorrow.
Yes. So look forward to see who's going to be guided by Marie-Philippe Poulin to another gold medal.
Yes. That is someone you trade 4 first-round picks for. That is someone that drags you into a battle. That is a clutch player.
Yep.
Ultimate clutch player.
Yep. All-star names Thursday. I kind of roll my eyes at it now because we debate who should be an all-star or not. It's just a promotional tool for the league. But it's fun.
It's fun. The 3-on-3 tournament has breathed new life into it for me. I enjoy watching the games now because as long as you understand, it's fucking pond hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's summer hockey. Like you go out there, they try and do stuff, and it's entertainment. Yeah. And I'm with Jeff Merrick. I want to see a backwards skating contest. I want to know who the best backwards skater is.
And who did they say they got the most replies about? It was a guy from Minnesota.
Spurgeon?
No, it wasn't Spurgeon. But apparently I think it was Merrick's radio show today where he said that he was inundated with a certain player from Minnesota. Apparently they
was it the defenseman there, Chris?
If you say the name, I'll remember, but
Matt
for some
Dumba?
reason no, it wasn't Dumba.
Kalen Addison.
Kalen Addison?
Nope.
Jonas Brodin?
Jordy Ben.
Brodin might have been it.
I could see it being Brodin, actually.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up and double check, but I think it was Brodin.
Friend of the show, Isha, who yelled at me when I said that contract is not good.
Have to bring him back in the Soda Pod back.
We will, for sure.
All right. Anything else we need to touch on?
Bergevin.
Yes, Mark Bergevin joining the LA Kings as an assistant GM. Rob Blake got a contract extension.
Assistant? I thought it was more of a consultant sort of role, not an AGM
advisor.
Thing. Yeah, I think it was more of an advisor sort of consulting sort of thing.
I heard I read AGM. That's why I put it in there, but maybe I am wrong.
Sean's typically our fact checker, so I'll let him do that.
Senior advisor to Kings general manager.
Senior advisor, yep. That's not. I would say that senior advisor is one of those roles that where it's not an AGM. He's literally there scouting. That's literally what they do in that role, and then they're to bounce ideas off of.
He's the guy who sits in the back of the room, and when the management can't come to an agreement, they're like, "What do you think?" And he breaks the tie. That's basically what his role is in LA.
Yeah. Rob Blake got an extension because that was they announced the Bergevin hiring before the Rob Blake extension, which put people into a tizzy.
Yeah, conspiracy theorists were like, he's going to replace Blake.
Yeah, I don't see that. Although him and Luke Robitaille apparently are close friends, but maybe he goes to Anaheim. Who knows? We'll see there.
They got Anaheim and Chicago also looking for GMs along with Vancouver and Montreal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though Montreal basically has its own pool of candidates that no one else will be looking at.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's why. Hence why I said David Quinn will be taking French lessons.
I don't know why, but I just have this gut feeling that it's going to end up being Briere.
Yeah, probably.
But that's just purely a hunch that has no facts or anything behind it. That is clearly just what my gut feels.
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation in Montreal because because of the way that the media covers that, there's an expectation that you have to speak French there, and Briere makes sense. And that's what that's what has to happen there.
And just like Rutherford here, like basically it's going to be Gorton running the show there, and then whoever ends up being the GM is basically the mouthpiece that can speak French.
Yeah, the whole thing about the Habs and that, like, they've got. I just pulled this up for statistics from the Canadian, like the official Canadian government website. French-speaking population is 85% of Quebec, compared to bilingual at 44.5%. So I get the frustration, especially from us outsiders, in terms of, like, why don't you just hire the best person and have someone. From an outside
perspective, it seems gimmicky, but it actually is fairly essential as far as being able to effectively communicate to your fan base.
Could you imagine if they just brought, like, team brought in a GM that couldn't speak English? Like, it's hard enough when you get, like, they bring in a Russian GM and you couldn't speak English. You know how frustrating that would be for the fan base and the media and everything? It would just get lit up. Like, you need to be able to communicate with your media and your fan base.
I do agree, but also I will also counter that their most successful time was in that organization. Their dynasty is when they had two non-French speaking people in it, in the GM and head coach's chair, which was Ken Dryden and Scotty Bowman.
Doesn't Dryden speak French? He played, like, I'm sure he speaks French.
I'm sure they were bilingual.
I'm pretty sure.
I think
they were English first.
I think Dryden speaks more than two languages, if I remember correctly. But
yeah,
and I think actually, I'm not sure if someone can fact check this for me, but I believe Scotty Bowman also knows a bit of Russian.
Yeah. And Dryden played for the Habs too, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So he definitely did. So hiring Gorton was a really smart move, but they definitely need to have someone who's a lot more fluent in it. In French as the GM and the coach.
I give Gordon full props for that introductory press conference about how he's willing to learn French and that his wife signed him up for lessons. But he was like, also, but let's be realistic. I wanted to be better at golf, and I'm still not good at golf. So,
yeah, be interesting to see what happens there. But we will leave it there. The era has ended. But we will be back.
We will be back.
I feel like
there's no reason to be sad, Kevin. I'm getting this air of, like, sadness from you.
No, I feel like I'm being cryptic. That's the problem.
Well, we're intentionally being cryptic. We right now are in the. We are a. Why am I drawing a blank as soon as I'm trying to say it? We're about to become a butterfly. We're in that crystal
cocoon.
Cocoon. There we go. We are in the cocoon right now.
Oh, Chris,
I completely butchered that.
Yeah, you kind of did, but that's okay. There we go. But we will be back. We'll have our news recaps or news of the day this week, and then we've got other stuff going on as well. And yeah, a reminder: I write some articles for Area 51 and the Dub Network, and call some games in Greater Vancouver for Greater Vancouver Canadians this weekend. Got other stuff going on, but how do we follow everyone?
Before we do that, I just want to remind everyone that to enter to win the tickets to the currently scheduled April 23rd game between the Vancouver Canucks and Calgary Flames, where you'll get to meet and go to the game with Chris, Devin, and I. You can do that by going to the Pig and Duke at 12th and 12th or 4th and 4th, both Southwest in Calgary, and enter there. Or you can retweet this episode, retweet any of our episodes, any of our pod clips to get a entry into that contest. You can also DM us at podcast_hockey, the word of the week, which is earlier on in this episode. You can go and find that and get 3 entries into the contest for that for one of 2 tickets that we can give away for that game. And I honestly just want to say, yeah, this is an end of an era, but we are flourishing and coming out of our cocoon, as Chris was trying to say, going forwards here. And you can follow me at BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
And I am Matt Schneids on most social media.
Devin, again, GordHowe09 on Twitter. Tyler, TNOBLE. Podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast. I am KEVOLE, as I said. Subscribe to wherever you get our audio. Folks, clean is good and dirt is bad. Rest in peace, Bob Saget. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.